What if the love you're grieving never quite existed the way you experienced it? Not because you were foolish, not because you imagined everything, but because what she gave you, real as it felt in moments, was never the full thing. Never the complete, chosen, I would stay, even when it's hard kind of love you believed you were inside. And the cruelest part of this particular truth is that it doesn't make the pain smaller. It makes it more complicated. Because now you're not just grieving you're grieving a version of the relationship that may have lived more completely in you than it ever did in her. That grief is real, and it deserves to be named honestly. That's what we're doing today. You keep trying to make the story make sense, and it won't. Here's where you are right now. The relationship ended, or it's ending, or something fundamental shifted, and you're trying to understand what actually happened. And you keep going back through the history of it, looking for the explanation that makes everything coherent. The moment things went wrong, the thing you did or didn't do. The version of events that lets you understand how something that felt so real could arrive at such a painful destination. But the timeline keeps not adding up. The patterns you're finding when you look backward don't support the story of two people who were equally invested in the same thing. There are gaps, inconsistencies, moments where her behavior, in retrospect, doesn't match what genuine love looks like when you examine it honestly. And you're starting to suspect quietly in the place where the most uncomfortable thoughts live that the foundation was different than you understood it to be while you were standing on it. This video is for the person in that place, the one who needs the truth, not because it will hurt less, but because truth, even painful truth, is the only thing that lets you actually move forward. Let's look at the 5 signs. You were always the one who maintained the connection. Think back honestly. Not to the good moments, to the pattern. Who initiated most of the meaningful conversations? Who reached out first after conflict? Who made the plans, remembered the important dates, created the occasions for the two of you to reconnect when life pulled you apart? Who said, I love you more? Who worked harder to keep the warmth alive when it started cooling? If the honest answer, the one you arrive at when you stop making generous allowances, is consistently you, that asymmetry means something. Love, when it's genuine and mutual, doesn't require one person to be the permanent engine of the relationship. It doesn't demand that one person carry the full weight of maintenance while the other shows up to enjoy what the maintenance created. Real love reaches back. It initiates, it invests, without being prompted, because it genuinely wants the connection to continue. A woman who truly loves you doesn't wait to be loved first, but she meets you in the middle. Sometimes she meets you more than halfway. The relationship feels like something both of you are actively building, rather than something one of you is building while the other inhabits it. If you were always the engine, you weren't in a partnership. You were in a performance of partnership that required your effort to keep running. Your pain never seemed to actually reach her. This is the sign that cuts the deepest and the one that is hardest to face honestly, because it requires admitting something about a person you chose to trust. Think about the times you were genuinely hurting, times you were struggling with something external, with something in the relationship, with something she did that wounded you. Times you were vulnerable in front of her in the specific, real way that requires lowering every guard you normally keep up. What did she do with that? A woman who truly loves you cannot remain unmoved by your pain. Not because love makes people perfect, it doesn't, but because genuine love creates empathy that is almost involuntary. When someone you truly love is hurting, something in you responds to that hurt whether you want it to or not. You don't have to remind yourself to care. The care arrives automatically. If your pain consistently seemed to make her uncomfortable rather than compassionate, if vulnerability from you produced defensiveness or withdrawal or a pivot back to her own experience, if she seemed to be waiting for a difficult moment to pass so you could return to the version of you she preferred, that tells you something important about the depth of her investment in you as a full person. She may have loved what you provided. The stability, the attention, the way you made her feel, but loving what someone gives you is not the same as loving them. Real love stays present when you stop being convenient. 3. She disappeared during your hardest seasons. Love gets revealed not in the comfortable times, but in the hard ones. Anyone can be a good partner when life is easy. What someone does when things get genuinely difficult, when the person they're with is going through something that requires sustained patience and real sacrifice, that is the truest test of whether what they feel is love or something more conditional. Think about your hardest period during the time you were together. A professional crisis. A period of depression or anxiety or confusion about your direction. A time when you genuinely needed more than you were able to give back. Where was she in that season? Did she draw closer even when it was inconvenient? Did she stay patient when you weren't your best self? Did she create space for your struggle without making you feel like a burden for having it? Or did she pull back? Did she become... Did she find excuses to be less available during the period when your availability to her was also reduced? Did. But the relationship struggle most precisely when you were struggling most? Love leans in during hard seasons. It doesn't require you to perform wellness you don't have in order to keep the warmth available. If the warmth was consistently conditional on you being functional and giving and emotionally available, if it cooled when you needed it, it was never the unconditional thing that love actually is. 4, she never truly fought for the relationship. Conflict is inevitable in any real relationship. People are complicated. Two complicated people who have decided to build something together are going to clash over values, priorities, fears, the 1,000 daily frictions of shared life. What matters is not whether conflict happened, but what both people did when it did. Did she fight for the relationship during its hardest moments, or did she fight against you? There is a profound difference. A person who loves you wants to find the resolution that keeps you together. They are willing to be uncomfortable, to do the hard work of self-examination, to apologize genuinely and change meaningfully, because the alternative, losing this, is unacceptable to them. A person who doesn't truly love you fights to win, not to reconnect. Or they disengage entirely, going cold, refusing the difficult conversation, waiting for the storm to pass rather than working through it together. Or they threaten to leave so casually, so repeatedly, that leaving clearly never felt like a real loss to them. Think about how she navigated the significant conflicts. Did she work? Did she stay? Did she invest the discomfort of working through something because what was on the other side of that work mattered to her? Or did the relationship feel in those moments like something she was tolerating rather than fighting to preserve? You always felt slightly unseen, even when things were good. This is the most subtle sign of the 5. And for many people, it's the one that makes the most. But since in retrospect, even though it was the hardest to articulate while they were inside it, you were with her. Things were good enough. She was warm, she was engaged, she was present in the functional sense, and yet there was this persistent low-level feeling that she didn't quite know you. That the version of you she was with was a somewhat simplified version, the parts that were easy and compatible and didn't require much from her, while the more complicated, more particular, but fully human parts of you were quietly on the shelf. She knew your surface, your habits, your preferences, your reliable characteristics. But did she know your fears? Your specific personal relationship with failure and hope and the things you're still trying to figure out? Did she ask genuinely, curiously ask about the inner landscape of your life? Or did the relationship stay comfortable by staying somewhat shallow, by avoiding the kind of depth that would require her to be fully present? But to someone as a person rather than as a role, being loved fully means being known fully, the complicated parts, the contradictory parts, the parts that are still in process, and it means being chosen anyway. Love not despite the full picture, but because of it. If you always felt like only part of you was welcome in the relationship, like the real you was slightly more than she was prepared to receive, that's not a communication problem. That's a love problem. 6, what these signs mean taken. But together, here's the important nuance before we move toward closing. None of these signs individually is conclusive proof of the absence of love. People are imperfect. Relationships go through seasons. Emotional availability fluctuates. But when you look at them together, when multiple of these signs are consistently present across the length of the relationship rather than appearing occasionally during difficult patches, they form a picture. And that picture shows a relationship in which the significantly unequal. In which one person was genuinely all in, while the other was partially, conditionally, incompletely present. That inequality is important to name. Not to build resentment toward her, she may not have fully understood what she was or wasn't giving. But to stop carrying the explanation for the relationship's failure inside yourself. To release the version of the story where you were the problem, where if you'd been different, done more, and better, it would have worked. It wouldn't have. Because the foundation was never solid enough for it to hold. She may have cared. She may have, in her way, meant what she said in the moments she said it. But caring is not the same as loving. Meaning it in the moment is not the same as meaning it through the difficult, inconvenient, costly moments when love reveals whether it's real. What you deserved, what you have always deserved, is the version that stays. The version that reaches back. The version that knows you fully and chooses you anyway. The version that leans in when things get hard instead of pulling back when you become complicated. You didn't get that. That is a real loss and it deserves to be grieved, honestly. But here's what the grief gives you if you let it do its full work: clarity about what love actually looks like versus what it merely resembles. About what you'll accept next time and what you'll recognize sooner. About the difference between someone who loves, but you make them feel, and someone who loves you. That clarity is the freedom this title promised, and it's yours now. If something in this video landed in a place that needed landing, if you finally have words for something you've been carrying without them, subscribe. Every week on this channel, we go into the honest, sometimes painful, ultimately freeing conversations about love, loss, and what it means to build something real with another person. You deserve those conversations, and you deserve the love that actually shows up for them.